Years have passed by and times have changed. Deal is not the bustling fishing town it used to be. The beach is bare and the old North End has gone from being part of Deal's history to the newfound era of people that have moved from other areas. The local boatmen are now an extinct breed. In this film I'm going to tell you about number 6 Brewer Street as it was in those days gone by, where my family owned this property and I was raised there until I got married in 1968. This is part of the history of 6 Brewer Street. The Scarden family owned 6 Brewer Street from the mid-1800s up until 1980s, which is when my father sold it and moved into his new built house on Courtmarsh Farm. My grandfather, George Scarden, owned number 6 and prior to 1950 also owned number 5, but this was eventually given over to Bill Bailey. Another story here, although the herring hangs at the rear were still used. Before my family bought number 6 Brewer Street, it was a local pub. A double opening gate led from Brewer Street into the yard at number 6, and walking up the yard you pass the back door on the left. We'll enter later. Straight in front of you was the stable doors, which led into the stables, where my grandfather kept his horse. This was still the stables when I was a toddler in the early 1950s, although lots of fish curing was now going on. Above the stables was a herring hang accessed via a door inside the stables on the right, and there was a hatch in the ceiling. The fire for smoking the fish was inside the access door, and all above the first floor of the building was rows of looms where the spits were hung to smoke fish. Coming out of the stables and turning right, if you looked to the left you saw a kitchen window. Just under the window was a hand water pump installed in the yard, from which water was raised from many feet below the property. Walk along a bit further and on the left there was a toilet in a wooden shed. Opposite this was the washroom, a small building with a copper in it. This was still used when I was a youngster, and coal was also stored in the same place. Go through the back gate into number 5's yard and the rest of the huge herring hangs were here. These were full in the old days, with thousands of herrings being cured every day. In the late 1950s my father refitted the stables and sealed off the herring hang above it. He installed a cold store, a fish preparation area and a small shop from which my mother used to sell poultry and fish from. This was very popular. In the 1960s the herring hang was resituated in the copper house. This was built up and looms installed. It still held lots of fish and the fire was, as usual, lit below for smoking the fish. Returning to the street, as you went up the steps to go into the house via the front door, on the left were the cellar flaps, where the sawdust was delivered into by hogbins of sandwich. Above the front door, on the main wall of the house, is a concrete circle with 1862 written in it. This was the date my great-grandfather had the house resurfaced. Entering the house by the front door, you come into a large sitting room. Directly in front of you was a glass-panelled partition with a panelled door which separated this room from the rest of the house. Walking in, and to the left in the middle, facing you, is a fireplace. To the left of this was a tall cupboard fitted out with shelves. Mother used to make her Christmas cakes in the summer and store them in here. On the right of the fireplace are 2 more cupboards, one above the other. The top one had glass panels and shelves, but the bottom one held a secret. Open the door and crawl in the bottom cupboard, and at the back was a passage leading upwards. This led into a small room between the bedrooms on the first floor. I'm not sure if my father had this blocked off, as he did speak about doing it. Returning into the room, we go through the doors towards the back of the house. On the right are the stairs. A bit further down is a door on the right which leads to the cellar. Step down a small step and the back door is on the right. We enter the kitchen, which in the 1950s had a stone sink, a small gas cooker, a couple of cupboards and a pantry cupboard. Turn left through the door and enter the dining room. On the right was a large window and on the left was a huge fireplace with a log and coal burning kitchener in it. A bit further along was another cupboard, which was used as an airing cupboard. In the mid-1950s my father employed Mr. Ron Wilson to build a toilet room into the living room. The old wooden shed was removed and a brick extension put in its place. This made a small storage area and then a bathroom was added. Coming back through the kitchen we go down into the cellar. Here there are 2 archways built into the walls. I was always told never to enter these when I was a youngster, because if I did, Rufus would get us. We used to hear noises coming from the cellar on many occasions, and in latter years discovered what it was. But me and my friend explored the tunnels on several occasions, and when my father found out, he had them bricked up. These tunnel entrances are another story, but have since been closed off in several locations. I am not at liberty to say where any go or to what their purpose was. Back to the living room. If you sat at the table with a cup of tea and were quiet, every Friday night at 6 p.m, you would hear the back gate open and shut. Then the sound of clip-clop, 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 as a chap with a wooden leg started walking up the yard and around to number 5. This ghost was regular, and it was a chap we called Pegleg. He apparently hung himself in the building when it was a pub and haunted it from then on. Raised here, I helped my dad with all the fish and poultry. Herrings were brined, spitted up and hung to dry in their thousands in the yard in the autumn, before being put on the looms in the smoke hole. 24-hour smoking and a wonderful golden bloater was produced. People used to queue down the street to buy these every day. 12 for a tanner when I was a kid, that's 2.5 pence in today's value. After the herring season was finished, sprats were cured, and father's pigs, which he kept for Christmas trade, were slaughtered. Much of the meat was cured into ham. This was delicious. Many different kinds of fish were cured here as well. Pouting split and made into golden cutlets. Whiting, haddock, cod, kippers and smoked eels all had a good call for. At regatta time my father used to make what we called floats. These were, as you see here, wonderful works of art, made from old fish boxes and wire and attached to a pushchair or 3-wheeled bike. The frames were then covered with hundreds of paper flowers made from crepe paper. I used to sit by the fireplace for hours every night with my mother making these flowers. A hard and tedious task, but the rewards were always good. My sister Linda was the entrant, and first prize was always taken. Back in those days, the streets were still cobbled brick. I remember me and Terry Harris taking our fixed wheel bike out, and one of us would put roller skates on. We used to take turns at pulling each other up and down the road over the rough cobbles. Great fun for a youngster. Also, my job daily was to wash the yard down, and then with a big stiff broom scrub the water down the whole length of Brewer Street until it fell in a drain in Middle Street. Hard work. The roads were never tarmac then. This came at a later date. Returning back inside the house via the back door, we turn left, go up a step, walk along and turn left, then go up the stairs, and on the right is a bedroom. Enter the bedroom, and on the left far side was a cupboard. A single window overlooked the yard on the other side. I had this room until my sister was 3 years old. I was then moved out and put up into what I called the attic. However, this room held another ghost, the spirit of a young girl called Jane. She was a Scarden. There's too much of a story to tell here on her. Nearly every night Jane would enter the bedroom, open a drawer from the chest of drawers and throw my sister's clothes all over the room. If anyone entered the room she would disappear, but the room would be a mess. My dad had the room exorcised by the vicar of St George's, and the vicar said he could feel the presence. This went on for several years and was still happening when I left home in 1968. Come out of this room, step down one step and walk forward, and step up, I think it was 3 steps, and enter my parents' room, which fronted Brewer Street. 2 windows look over the street, and on the opposite wall was a fireplace with a cupboard to the left. Behind this wall was the hidden room, but the cupboard was, in those days, where my dad housed the instruments of my granta, Robert Scarden's band. Come out of the bedroom and go up the winding stairs to the attic room, which was my bedroom. Entering this room, you saw that it had sloping ceilings with a window, which looked out onto Brewer Street and up to the seafront. Here again was a ghost which used to visit me frequently. It was a Viking and stood over me on many nights in his war clothes talking. It never harmed me, and Dad always told me he was my guardian. I have had many encounters with him in my life since leaving Brewer Street, and one not so very long ago. Well, that is a rough description of number 6 Brewer Street as it was when I was raised there. The north end then was full of quaint old houses with local people and boatmen living in them. Everybody helped each other and knew each other. I won't delve into what the area is like now, but the character of the old Deal people around the area has gone, never to come again. Deal is not the place it was. It has no characters, no beach with boats and boatmen telling their yarns, and the town is now just a mass of coffee shops. I'm glad I was raised in the best years when Deal was Deal, and not the bustling city community it is now. I hope you enjoyed watching this true story.